What's happening, everybody? Happy opening day. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. You are exactly where you need to be. It is Thursday night. We're just past 9:30. Welcome to Johnny Gaz Live. If you're new to the channel, make sure to slap that like button, share the stream out. Let's get friends and family involved so we can talk all the Detroit sports. Tonight, there is so much good stuff ahead of us. So many good things happen this evening, today, in Detroit sports land. We're going to have so much to talk about. Obviously, the big topic is always the Lions here at Johnny Gaz Sports, but with the day being opening day, I think we have a lot more to dive into. So welcome. I appreciate you guys for getting in the chat. What's up, Trim Reaper? How you doing, Trim? What up, Doe? Mile Marker, I saw you here early. Appreciate you, man. Thank you guys for getting involved in the chat. I appreciate you. We're going to have a lot to buzz back and forth on today, guys. I got obviously Tigers topics for us. We can talk Wings. We got Pistons just wrapped up as well. I got a big Lions topic. And then at the end of the live, I'm going to get back into the Detroit sports time machine, and we're going to change some history for our Detroit Red Wings. So that'll be a lot of fun. Make sure to stick around to the end of the live. We'll get into that here in just a little bit. It's been a long week. Hope you guys are doing well. Let me know if you're new here. Say hello in the chat. It's been one heck of a long week. It's Thursday, almost there to Friday. We got the tournament games going on right now as we speak. Michigan State play tomorrow. So there's a lot of good stuff going around the scene right now here in Detroit sports, Michigan sports in general. And we're going to be here for all of it. Thank you guys for coming around another live here on Johnny Gaz Sports. We're live on Tuesdays and Thursdays on Facebook and YouTube, but Johnny Gaz Sports can be found on any one of your social networks. If you search for @JohnnyGazSports, you will find concise, reliable, and honest Detroit sports content each and every day for free. What's up, guys? How we doing? Man, what a fun day. Let's jump right into it. I think, as we usually do here on Johnny Gaz Live, and there's so much going around, so let's start by going around the D. So we got to go around the D, and I think we have to start in San Diego, where our Detroit Tigers kicked off the 2026 Major League Baseball season on the road. They get an 8-2 victory over the San Diego Padres, starting the season 1-0. Tarik Skubal on the mound, looking Cy Young yet again. Third season in a row on the hill for the Tigers on opening day, and he's going for his third Cy Young. He is off to one heck of a start. But the story is obviously Kevin McGonigal. In his Major League debut, more than held up his end of the bargain. Steps right in, goes 4 for 5, multiple doubles in his first two at-bats, 2 RBIs, makes an immediate impact in this game, and helps the Tigers to an 8-2 victory in San Diego. Let's recap. I mean, Kevin McGonigal jumped from Double-A now straight to an opening day starter and an immediate impact player in this Tigers lineup. I think he batted 7th today and played third base. And so now with all this hype comes some validation. And that's, I think, what's most exciting. He sparked a 4-run first inning. So to kick the Tigers off, he swung at the very first pitch he saw and rips a double down the right field line. He showed an advanced plate approach. I mean, that's what he was kind of already showing in the spring. But again, just the validation of that in today's ball game. Gap power, composure, going up there with a plan, especially in the Major League debut. He looked like he belonged there from pitch one. And that's what's the most exciting thing for me with Kevin McGonigal. And a guy his age isn't supposed to be ready this fast. I mean, he entered the year as a top 2 prospect in baseball, obviously skipped AAA entirely. The big talk was service time, and would the Tigers sort of make him go through the AAA process before bringing him up to the big leagues? Well, they skipped all that, and now they're going for it. And again, the validation of today proves that point. And he immediately became one of the Tigers' best hitters in the first day of this 2026 Major League Baseball season. obviously creates a ton of excitement. It is opening day. It was already an exciting day, but to add this on top of it, 8-2 win from the Tigers, 4 for 5 from your young phenom. You really couldn't ask for much more for an opening day in a Major League Baseball debut. I mean, think about bigger picture what this really does for the Tigers lineup. You already had guys like Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, and now you're inserting a high contact, high IQ hitter. You can extend innings. Obviously, he's driving in runs, setting the table. He was on base when Dingler hit his home run in today's game. So again, production. I mean, they didn't just add a player to this lineup. It looks like he's sort of a stabilizer, a fire starter even. And I mean, we talked about how this is kind of an all-in move for the Tigers. And again, this sort of puts them on the path to where, you know, the questions were what would happen with the bats in this lineup. And could they produce enough runs on top of the quality pitching they were already getting? And again, it's one game, but this is what you wanted to see from the Tigers as they insert McGonigal into this everyday lineup. So this isn't any longer a patient build. You're not waiting for this anymore. It's not a, you know, let's try him out, see how he does situation. This is a competitive push from the Tigers now, and they're all in. But it is extremely important that we stay grounded with this. Again, it is one game. It's his Major League debut. The pitchers will adjust to him. They will figure him out, and then he will have to adjust. The league will kind of test him. You know, inside velocity, the sequencing of the pitches that he'll see, knowing that he's aggressive and jumping on those first pitches. You know, that will all sort of round itself out. So you can't overreact necessarily to just one game. It's certainly okay to be excited, but you have to know early results don't always define a whole season. You obviously pray for anyone's health, but the bottom line is his approach is real. There's no doubt about that. The way he comes to the plate is real. The contact he has, the quality of the contact is real. And it looks like his confidence is real. And that's really what the Tigers needed to insert as far as a bat into this lineup. I mean, he looks like a future all-star, certainly a rookie of the year. Not just potential, but I think he's probably the favorite even after day one. I mean, there was talks of that already. He's a cornerstone bat for this lineup and possibly the piece that pushes this team where they want to go. And that's winning a World Series title. You have a lot of other questions, but I think now you have one answer. And that's what I think is the most exciting thing about today's opening day. So here's the question tonight, guys. Did you watch the game? Let me know in the chat. Did you watch the Tigers opener in San Diego, the 8-2 victory for Detroit? Did we just watch a great debut, one of the all-time great Major League debuts for Kevin McGonigal? Did we just see that today? Did we watch the beginning of the next big star in Detroit sports? I know that's a huge thing to say, but that's something that you feel coming out of this today. So are you guys buying the hype already? Is McGonigal the missing piece to this for the Tigers? And how excited are you now coming off of this opening day? I'd love to hear from you guys. Trim says, let's go Tigers. That's right, buddy. Awesome decision. Obviously, clearly the right decision. That's all right, Trim. No worries, buddy. We'll warm into it. No problems. It was a great day. It was amazing. What's up, Joe? How we doing, buddy? Joe, did you watch Tigers opening day? Tell me you watched it. We're talking McGonigal. We're talking all the good things he did today in the Tigers lineup in his Major League debut. Tigers won 8-2 today. Just a really fun day of baseball. I mean, when you start off the first inning with 4 runs, McGonigal again comes up to the plate and knew what he wanted to do with it, rips a double down the right field line, starts his career off with back-to-back doubles, ends the day with 4 hits, 4 for 5 on the day. And just an overall good day for the Tigers. And let's not look past the Trick Skubal start. I mean, you know, 1-0 for him. He looked everything Cy Young on day one. That's what you wanted to see. Joe, I knew you did, buddy. I love it. What'd you think of Kevin McGonigal's performance, man? How good was that? Michelle says, hey, Johnny, we need to slow our roll. Long season ahead. I want to see the rest of the starting pitchers. Wah, wah. Don't bring us down, Michelle. Man, if anybody, I thought you'd be excited today. It was a good day. And again, you're right. You do have to quell the excitement. One day doesn't make a season. It doesn't make them World Series champions, doesn't make him Rookie of the Year. All of that stuff is just one day. You're exactly correct. But it was an exciting one day. And we're going to enjoy it today on Johnny Gaz Live. That's for sure. That's for sure. Cheers, everybody. Happy Thursday night. It's been a couple weeks since we've done a regular Thursday. So, again, I appreciate you guys coming around. So many good things happening in Detroit sports today. One of the other things kind of gets overshadowed with MLB opening day going on. Obviously, what happened with the Tigers. The Pistons played tonight. They went a back-to-back after losing last night. Overtime loss last night. Tough game. I mean, they had a good shot at that one. Jalen Duren had his hands on a rebound with a chance for a tip back or a put back in overtime at the buzzer, and he came up just short. Pistons didn't shoot the ball very well yesterday. Well, today, a little bit of a different story. They play the New Orleans Pelicans at home. They get the victory 129-108. Jalen Duren leads the way with 30 points today, 10 rebounds. Danish Jenkins with 9 assists. And Kevin Huerter came up pretty big for the team as well. He had 22 points tonight for the Pistons over the New Orleans Pelicans. This is now the 53rd win for the Pistons. They're 53-20. It was against a bad Pelicans team, but a win you got to get because Pistons have some difficult games upcoming. They were a 4-game homestand. Now they will go on the road here for a few. They'll have Minnesota, Oklahoma City, and then they come back home for Toronto, Minnesota. Then it's Philly, Orlando, at home for Milwaukee. Then they finish on the road in Charlotte and then at Indiana. So there's not many games left here. This was an important one for the Pistons to get tonight against New Orleans at home. As far as the standings are concerned, right now the Pistons are 4.5 games up on the Boston Celtics. That was 4 before tonight's victory. But the Pistons still hold that number 1 seed in the East. And with a limited amount of games left in the season, they have a leg up on this first seed. And I think we're hearing now that Cade Cunningham is starting some non-contact work, sort of working off to the side of practice. So that's a good sign. I think they're going to reevaluate him in another week or so. So we'll see what his long-term prognosis will be as far as how quickly can he return? Can he get back right before the playoffs, or is it going to be just after the playoffs start? I mean, it's a huge piece to this for the Pistons, but what they can control is hopefully hanging on to this number 1 seed as they get into the playoffs to allow Cade Cunningham to sort of ease back into this. Roses are red, violets are blue. I hit the like and subscribe buttons, and so should you. Trim, that's fantastic. That's so good. That's so good so that I think it deserves, because we didn't get one on Tuesday. I realized that when I watched it back. I didn't give one out at all. You get the first gong of the day, my friend. And I appreciate you hanging around. Good to see you back, buddy. Thank you so much. So, yeah, Pistons holding on to that first seed in the Eastern Conference. Boston Celtics 4.5 back. New York Knicks 5.5 back. And the Cleveland Cavaliers 8.5 back. As far as the 8th seed right now, Orlando Magic is sitting at 8. Philly in 7. And then right behind the Magic are the Charlotte Hornets. So we'll have to keep our eyes on who that 8th seed could be for that potential matchup for the Pistons in the first round of the playoffs. Well, we do have to change gears. A lot of positivity. I got to hit on one unfortunate negative topic, and that's our Detroit Red Wings. And a couple days now past the loss to Ottawa. I think we got to talk about it. I'm not going to beat this up too bad, but I think The Wings just lost a must-win game, 3-2, and it's hard to now sugarcoat this anymore. I think that loss, I know there's games to go. There's still, I think, 10 or 11 games for the Wings left, and there's still hope there. But I think the trajectory and what's happened over the last several seasons, a loss like this, when you had to get a win over Ottawa, they were limited in their defensive pairings. They had guys making their NHL debut, and they took a 3-0 lead in this hockey game, or in that hockey game. Now, the Wings were able to claw back to 3-2, but weren't able to complete the job. They ended up losing the game, and did they ultimately lose their playoff hopes in the process? 3 weeks ago, this team had about an 80% shot to make the playoffs, which seems crazy to me now. Today, it's down to about 45%. So it's pretty much a coin flip. But the worst part, they didn't lose to some powerhouse. You know what I mean? Or it's not like they've been winning games and then all of a sudden had a drop off. They lost to a team that's also chasing and also in the mix. They're losing two teams that they're competing with, and that's really hurting not only their chances this year, but it's hurting the overall vibe for this team. And a lot of this seems self-inflicted. Missed opportunities, breakdowns on the defensive side, costly mistakes at the worst times. You know what I mean? And I think the players know it. They came out after the game and had said how upset they were. That's, something was wrong, obviously. Mo Sider had a quote said, if you're not upset after the game, then something's wrong with you. And I think he's right. I'm sure they've noticed this for some time, but that's a loss that sort of shines the light on the whole problem, this whole March issue. So as much as some Red Wing fans wanted to tell me the last time I brought up this topic, I think we're now in full collapse mode with the Wings yet again. They held a playoff spot for over 100 days. It's crazy to think about. And now they're on the outside looking in. As bad as we want it, it starts to become a pattern, a frustrating pattern. And again, I've said that I thought the moves that they made at the deadline were fine. Again, nothing that clearly put them over the top. Maybe they needed more, but I like Falk and I like Perron. I was okay with that. But was it another playing safe kind of deadline? There might not have been a lot of other opportunity for them to make moves. So I'm not saying this particular deadline was what causes me to look at the big picture differently, but you have to start to question what's going on with Steve Yzerman in his tenure, 7-year. And in none of those years, and add another 3 years, 10 years plus now, the Red Wings are probably not making the playoffs. What is the identity of this team? You thought maybe when Larkin returned from the Olympic break that kind of momentum might carry some things. Well, then he gets injured and they try to reinsert him in the lineup, and I appreciate that, the grit of that, and that you want to get back. But did that then cause, players to play a little differently as he works himself back in? And now he did get a goal against Ottawa, so I'm not blaming Dylan Larkin at all, but I just think, it's an issue they had to work through. So it's definitely not about one player, but what is the true identity of this hockey team? What will it be? What can it be in the future? I think they've set their defensive pairings up for the future. I think the only one they don't have wrapped up right now is Edvinsson. So we'll see what happens with him. He might earn money elsewhere, but next year going into it, they'll have decent defensive pairings. But again, the question is, where's the goal scoring coming from? So just to get back to the season, let's answer the question. Tell me what you think, guys. Can the Wings make the playoffs? Will they make the playoffs? Technically, they can. Mathematically, they're certainly still in it. But realistically, what do you think happens with this Red Wings team? They'd have to pretty much go on a heater now to close the season. I don't know where that's coming from, is my point. That's really the tough seller in this case. So I think the real conversation needs to begin is it time to start asking the real questions of Steve Yzerman and what needs to happen with this team, or does there need to be a change? I'm not asking for the man to be fired, but something's got to change. It just continues to happen. These March collapses. This isn't a rebuild. It's not about being patient anymore. It's just not happening, So let me know, guys. What do you think of this Red Wing stretch? Are they done this year? Should we be asking more questions of what's going on in the front office? Or am I just being too crazy with this? Let me know. Let me know. Trim says, I'm so bummed about my Wings. I know, man. It is a bummer because I felt like this year could be different. I thought with the goaltending, with the way Johnny Gibson was playing for so long, I actually, again, with the moves at the deadline, I'm thinking, okay, but the injury, the Larkin really derailed some momentum there. Yeah, adding a second line center, Trim. I mean, that was really what the question was. Like, you didn't really, I mean, David Perron was familiarity piece, right? But it wasn't like true goal scorer, you know? And that's it. Gibby hasn't been the same. You're exactly right. We were talking Vezina at midseason, you know, and now that's not even in the cards. And Trim, you make a good point. They have some talent coming through the system. Again, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm going to run you down the farm system here. So if you guys have more knowledge of that than I do, please let me know. If that's the plan, if that's really Steve's plan, I mean, how many years do we have to get to this point, you know? And that's just it. Does he go all in next season? You know, is that, and is he going to get that opportunity? What's up, Phil? How you doing, buddy? Appreciate you, bud. They can, but they're shooting themselves in the foot, Joe. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. They are shooting themselves in the foot. That's what's tough to see. That's what brought down the Boo Birds at home against Ottawa a couple days ago. March just kills them, doesn't it? It's unbelievable. What's up, Paulie? How you doing, bud? Good to see you, Paul. Did the team fracture after no one stood up for Larkin when he got hurt? Interesting. That's an interesting question, Phil. I mean, obviously with Larkin coming back, it wasn't enough to spark the victory over Ottawa. You know, hard to necessarily look at just one game as being, you know, he has to make a difference here, but that was a big game. That was a really big game when you're looking at the playoff picture, and they couldn't get it done. So, you know, it is a negative topic. I hate talking negative about Steve Yzerman, guys. I hate that. I had so many people come at me when I had the last short post with the Red Wings. They had just kind of started to make the turn to the negative in March. I had brought up the topic of, is this a collapse? You know, let's not have this happen again, sort of thing. And I got destroyed by Wings fans. Like, how dare you criticize Steve Yzerman? Injuries killed him, blah, blah, blah. And some of that is accurate. Some of that is truth. But the real truth is, like, you cannot argue what is being put out there. You're not getting to the second season. You're not getting to the playoffs. You're not even giving your teams opportunities to win cups. I thought that's what Hockey Town was all about. We talked that way about the Lions. I talked the same way about the Red Wings. My point is, I love Steve Yzerman. Michelle can attest to this if she's still in the chat. I used to rock the cutout milk jug as the hockey helmet and carry the boards around and pretend like I was Steve Yzerman. That was my first introduction into Detroit sports when I was a tiny kid. Steve Yzerman was my hero. So I don't want to see him go. I don't want to see him not be the GM of the Detroit Red Wings. But if you don't produce results, if you can't turn this team into a playoff contender, I mean, you should be competing for cups at this point. But we are where we are. Yeah, see, Trim, you're the same way. I think that's a lot of people. And I think that's why it's hard for people to even bridge this topic. And that's fair. It's okay. We're allowed to have our heroes. Well, we went around the D. I appreciate you guys going on the ride with me here, but let's jump over to our main topic of the day. The main topic of the day, of course, we'll start around the Detroit Lions. And for even this last week Tuesday, as we started to talk about some of the moves the Lions had made in the offseason, the free agent pickups, we talked about what's next based on what they had done. Well, today I figured we kind of flip this a little bit, and it's not necessarily about I want to be all positive today because I think there's a middle ground to all of this. I think there's ways to look at some of this as, positive, and other ways to look at this maybe negative. Sometimes some of it's in the middle. There's different layers to this whole thing. But I think what we've come to find out more than anything else, that the Detroit Lions have a program, a system, internally a system that they rely on and will stick to, regardless of what any outside projection, media source, content creator, fan, even other members of the National Football League may say to do things in a different way. Well, the Lions have a system of drafting, developing, and rewarding. That's been the tone that's been set since Brad Holmes became the GM of the Detroit Lions. Obviously, then bringing on Dan Campbell, everybody that they've gathered as part of that group, Rod Wood when he was a part of it, Mike Disner, that whole collection of folks there that have now made up this regime and what the organizational structure and culture is for the Lions. Well, they've developed a system of draft, develop, and reward. And because they drafted so well in 2021, 22, 23, primarily, those guys, those players, they've either already rewarded Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aiden Hutchinson, Kirby Joseph, among others. The rest of the 2023 draft class is now also coming up extension eligible. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch. Again, those are all amazing draft picks, all impact, all pro, all-star quality players, superstar players at their positions. And based on the Lions system that they've developed and they will stick to, and Brad Holmes came out in this recent interview, and we talked about it heavily on Tuesday. He reiterated that that's what they plan to do, is to pay these guys. They're going to reward the players that have paid off for them in the draft. They've done that to this point, and it sounds like they will continue to do that. And because of that, in their minds, in the Lions' minds, that straps them and gives them financial constraints that they can't work around, especially this offseason. And that's what this whole conversation is sparked from, is that the Lions have taken this approach, which has limited the amount of budget they have to spend on free agents, and they have had to go budget bargain shopping for free agents. And we've seen that. It's now held true. They've signed one multi-year contract for the center, Cade Mays, which we've all said is a good signing. It resets your offensive line, sets you up for success as long as they're able to add, I think, one more piece, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But this is their system. So the question today, is that system smart or is it risky? And is there a little bit of both there? Because clearly the Brad Holmes way of drafting is very smart. There's no doubt he is a fantastic scout and evaluator of talent, and they've been able to draft very well. Again, they've accumulated superstars in many position groups. And because of that, they've had to pay these players top dollar in each of these position groups. And because this 2023 draft class, and there's going to be guys in the 2024 class, and then from last year, eventually they're also going to come up and come due. And if more superstars are breeding out of this draft, then they're going to have to pay all these guys top dollar. That's going to continue to limit the amount of external spending that they're willing or able to do. And there's, I guess, questions as far as what they're able to do versus what they're willing to do. And I think that's where we get into smart versus risky, right? And that's the whole point of today's conversation. Because I think we can confidently say the Detroit Lions didn't necessarily go all in this offseason, right? But they didn't just patty. They've made a ton of free agent moves. I think 12 free agent signings now to this point. So again, the question is this smart team building, or are they taking a dangerous risk based on how they've now set up their organizational structure? So let me know, guys, right now in chat before we go any further. Are they playing things smart, or is this risky? Is this smart or is this risky business? I want to hear from you guys. What's up? Don't know? Good to see you, buddy. Now we're starting to roll. Now we got some people because we're talking Lions. You guys love talking Lions. It's okay. Go Tigers, go Red Wings, go Pistons, but always go Lions. So right now in chat, guys, smart or risky? I want to hear it. Trim says, love the depth additions. Hope we and a few starters in the draft and maybe make a splash trade. Splash trades, man. That's the thing. They don't do splash trades. They don't play that game. Mike Disner, baby. He's a big piece to this. We don't talk enough about him and his part of the organization. For sure. I was Stevie Eiserman. You know that, Michelle. I knew you could vouch for me there. Does Terrion Arnold have grit? Is that what you mean, Broski Bear? TA? Terrion Arnold? He's got too much grit. His friends got too much grit. Appreciate Don't Know. He says, I think you have the same amount of risk this way as any other. Just look at the Saints, for example, of a team that went all in with free agents and missed. Yeah. $112 million in dead money this season. Yeah, they're in cap hell. If there was a cap hell, the New Orleans Saints are there. Yeah, just not smart moves, you know? I mean, you hope that more of the moves the Lions make pay off. I mean, there's the other side of it. You're right. So, I mean, that's kind of going the other way with this. You know, you go the New Orleans Saints way where it doesn't work. The one that was brought up to me today, again, was the Micah Parsons thing. And again, I you know, let's not get into whether or not we think the Lions should have went after Micah Parsons or not. Because, you know, we know where we're at now. He's injured, so it didn't pan out. But I think what we can say is that before the Micah Parsons injury, he had set that defense up to be a Super Bowl winning defense. I mean, they were on the trajectory with him healthy to potentially get to and win a Super Bowl. It off when he got injured, but they still made the playoffs. They just weren't able to complete it. So there's that side of it as well. But going back to the conversation, let's mention the key move they did just make. They added depth piece Ben Bartch, the guard from San Francisco. Again, another injury history player, but will reinforce the interior of the offensive line. Another guy that could compete for a starting role. I think we know Mahogany or Frazier probably have the leg up there with Ratledge on the other side. But this guy, Ben Bartch, has starting experience, comes from a winning program. So again, decent depth move there. And then the Lions, of course, prioritize their re-signings, the extensions, the flexibility that they're going to need, at least in their mind, to re-sign these internal pieces. That obviously took them out of the big-time edge market or signing something more significant on the defensive side of the football. So right now, they don't really have another good pass rusher. I think it's too much to say they need another elite pass rusher. I mean, what two teams do really have two elite pass rushers? There aren't many. And they didn't have a massive headline splash, which, again, a lot of people go back to. But when you look around the NFL and you kind of start to dive into, okay, what were the moves they actually made, the guys they got, the contracts that they signed these players to? I mean, there's a lot of good built in there. I really like the Cade Mays move. I do think some of the offensive line depth that they'll now bring in will help them long-term so that they don't have an absolute complete fall off if one of those pieces gets injured. You know, you had Taylor Decker miss time, obviously, and then the Frank Ragnow retirement, what you were doing with your interior. There was so many questions there. And I think now building more depth behind that's great. Some outlets, even major outlets, have ranked this Lions free agency as top of the class. So, and a lot of that goes back to the idea of they only had a very limited amount of money to spend. And with that limited amount of money, they were still able to go out and make a lot of moves and add pieces into position groups that they had to have. The argument is still, are those pieces enough? But they were able to make a lot of moves for what that budget was. So some major outlets are giving Brad Holmes and the Lions a lot of credit for that. So depending on how you look at it, this is either efficient roster building, right? Or playing it a little too safe. And I think I've hit on both sides of this. I've argued both sides of this. I've been way too emotional on both sides of this. I mean, you heard me last week. I was getting way over the top, you know, against Brad Holmes coming off of that interview. But I think what I also realize is sometimes, you know, the things that Brad Holmes says in an interview like that, don't necessarily always reflect what's happening internally. There's always coach and GM speak in those settings and those forums, and sometimes the limited things you're hearing there can almost exacerbate that frustration. If you're already looking at this as underwhelming, then you hear Brad Holmes speak, the emotional response to that can be heightened. And I think that's where I was last week. I would have been earlier, but my wife needed me to put gas in her car. If you share Johnny Gaz Sports stream, all of a sudden gas appears in your wife's car. Don't know, great. And you should know that. Come on, man. Center's risky because neither Mays or Scruggs ever started an entire season. You're right. You're absolutely right. And the Panthers not happily, but they went and moved on and got a different center. So it's not a surefire, broski. I'm not sitting here telling me like that wasn't the center I would have gone out and tried to get, but I think the ones that I would have tried to gone out and get, they are out of their price range, especially according to the Lions. What's up, George? How you doing, buddy? Good to see you in the chat, George Jackson Jr. We go way back, my dude. I know you watched the Tigers today. I don't have to ask. Broski, I'm with you there. If Larry Borum is your day one starter at left tackle, I don't know, man. Then they didn't do enough for me. I don't know enough about Borum to make an analysis of what he's really going to provide. He'll get a chance to compete, but they need to draft a left tackle. Their starting left tackle better come from the draft. That's my opinion. Green Bay spent 2 first-round picks on him, still don't have a wide receiver 1. Yeah, they do have a collection of wide receiver 2s. You're right. I mean, that's, I think that was the other thing I heard today, looking at this from the underwhelming side. This came from one of the NBC analysts. Doesn't matter who it was. But the argument was ultimately, you can't have superstars in every position group. No NFL team can afford to pay superstars in every position group. It's just not the way the NFL's set up. That's not the way that teams do business. So there's going to be position groups you have to sacrifice if you're going to take a chance or a risk on a big piece. And so I think the Green Bay Packers were willing to, maybe sacrifice not going out and getting a wide receiver 1. You know what I mean? I mean, there's different ways to do this. What happened with Micah Parsons, and it's the quickest way to prove the other side of this, right? But I guess I would argue, Matt Stafford to the Rams. There's a lot of other moves that would show that there's ways to do this and recover. I mean, the Rams, I hate to keep going back to the Rams, but they're a perfect example of going all in, having a down year, a true down year, and being okay with that, and then resetting the table. And they have gone, made multiple runs. They've been to and won a Super Bowl and then come very close to getting back to another one. You know what I mean? And I feel like they're on the trajectory to get back there again based on some moves they've made this offseason. Because again, they're going all in yet again. They knew they didn't have cornerback depth, defensive back depth. So they didn't just bargain budget, pick up depth. They went out and solved their freaking problem. And they're maybe the top team in the NFC now. So there's different ways to do this. But I think and I'm not going to get too worked up on this, but that's which is where Brad Holmes comes from, the Rams organization. There is a way to do it that way. There is a way to go all in, reset, have a down year, and go all in again. And as long as you have the backing of your ownership group, then you should be able to do that. But it's like the Lions organization group just won't talk that way. It's like they got to the point in 2022, right before they went to the NFC Championship game, where things started to turn a little bit, turn in the positive. Remember the Green Bay game on the road? They beat Aaron Rodgers in his last game in Green Bay, all that goodwill, which then led into the next season in 23. I mean, at that point, I think the ownership group started to say, all right, guys, this is it. You got it. Stands are full. Ford Field's full. We're selling out all our tickets. Concessions are gone. The new uniforms are gone. I said this already, but the point is, like, Lions have never experienced Super Bowl winning. So any type of winning is like over the top for them. So Sheila Ford Hamp's probably loving this. Why? So my point is, what then is the incentive for Brad Holmes to do what I've just described to you, like what the Rams do, what the Eagles do? Go all in, go get your Super Bowl. Oh shit, we can't pay everybody now because we had to make the moves to get the Super Bowl. I'm sorry, guy, you're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to sacrifice a guy here. You're gonna have to walk away. But then we revamp. Then we go get Saquon Barkley. Then we go draft the defensive tackle, Carter. You take a risk on, and then you win another fucking Super Bowl. I'm sorry to swear, but you get it. You can do it that way. That's how it's proven. It's proven. But it's not Wusa. It's not what the Lions are going to do. They won't take that risk. They won't do it. Brad Holmes has job security in the way he's doing it right now. Why would he do it any different? That's okay. That's fine, dude. I don't know why I was there for a second. I'm back. I must be working today. Eastside says we need to second round and round at least get 5 to 6 talented players to upgrade your position for the team. I just hope this good. I mean, there's so much emphasis going to be tied into this draft now. I mean, he has to hit. They have to. At pick 17, it's got to be impact player right off the bat. Just right off the bat. I hope it's a tackle. Okay, yeah, like what you laid out there, so I'd be okay. Let me know if you guys are seeing anything weird on your end. I'm having a little trouble with the streaming software right now. The camera's okay, but something's going on with the streaming software. No worries. Get this straightened out.